the weaker you are, the less you'll think about resisting, because the resistance sort of questioning, like if you're going to question following any of the repetitive content, there's a point where the subconscious knows if you resist this group, you're probably going to come into a conflict. Don't be surprised that every single thing they do is following basic modalities of brainwashing and mind control. Because again, it's all about counter narrative. Well, basically, the way mind control can be summed up is monkey see, monkey do, or what we'll see is what will be. Most everybody has got their PhD in virology from Hollywood University and have never investigated beyond the repetitive content.
Right, a really big welcome back, everyone. And I'm so happy to be joined by the brilliant Jason Christoff again. And if you've listened to our last two episodes, you'll know we've already unpacked a lot about trauma and mind control. And in our second episode, we dive deep into Trump, RFK, and the mind control playbook. But today we are going even deeper. And personally, from my point of view, I think this is really needed because today's theme is if you think you're awake, let's test that. And we do not mean this from a judgment point of view, but from my personal point of view, and I can't wait to see what Jason's got to think about this, I think it's so much easier to spot when someone else is under mind control than it is to realize that you are. And so, whether you still believe in viruses, politics, all that, there's some good guys coming to save us. I think this is going to be a really good discussion that's going to be helpful to absolutely anyone who's trying to get unplugged from the matrix. So we're going to look at some of the most conscious truth seekers, how we might still be under mind control. I'm sure we all are. But so how do we recognize that? And most importantly, what do we do about it? So Jason, a really big welcome, big topic, no pressure. How you doing?
Well, we were discussing that before we got on. Everything's a little convoluted this week. The energy is a little off. There could be some technology get flying through the air in an invisible way that's designed to put us off. I've been researching a little bit about that just before I got on the call, but generally everything's going as designed for the awake folks and as designed for the non-awake folks.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I was just saying, I've definitely been off this week, which is really quite unusual for me, actually. And I haven't got to the bottom of it yet. So hopefully I'll have some more wisdom by the end of this. But I think this is a really important topic today because it's very easy to point the fingers at other people and sort of say they, the big they that we use all the time, are under mind control. But of course we all are. Well, I'm assuming that we all are. And for those of you people that haven't really delved into mind control, there's some really extreme, examples like MK Ultra, and a lot of my listeners know Kathy O'Brien's story. But what does mind control mean to you for the rest of us, and what does it mean to be under it?
Well, basically, we are mind control organisms on legs. We are designed to be put under mind control. This is how we learn. So, mind control generally, like I've discussed in the other presentations with you, is basically based on the repetitive content. So, again, in an innocent way, you're 5,000 years ago, you're sitting in a campfire of some tribe you were born into. And I think I've explained this before, where, no one walks down sort of the left-hand path that's leaving the village. And this comes as standard equipment on the human body, you as an infant, and it's even worse for infants. And when I say worse, it's more intense. The amount of focus of someone below the age of 7 on the repetitive content of their environment is like 10 times what an adult does. And adults don't even know this is going on either. But basically, before a child's the age of 7, they're in, I think it's a theta state. It's like a dream state. And that just means nothing's being questioned, everything's being downloaded, and the repetitive content is just being sorted as it comes in. The most repetitive content wins out is the behavior you're going to act out in real time. So if you're sitting in the tribal circle of this village and no one's using the left-hand path, and you see no one use it every day, and this is getting sort of documented by the subconscious mind, that saves you because you don't know why no one's going down the left-hand path. But as you get older, they tell you, you know what, this is where the crocodiles are, this is where the beehives are, this is where the scorpion nests are. But you don't have to be told that, like you don't understand language. This is why this mimicking and mirroring and emulating, protection mechanism comes as standard equipment on the human body. So everybody just goes down the right-hand path, that goes to the fishing hole, and that goes to the cornfield, and everything's fine. So that's what mind control is. It's this unconscious registration of all the content in your environment. Then you don't even know what's going on. You don't know that it's going to be tabulated in regards to what's most repetitive and what's not. And then you also don't know that once the most repetitive categories are documented, the same part of the mind forces you to copy those.
Yeah.
So that's what mind control really is. Now, once we get older, and we start thinking and we're not like a child anymore, we can start thinking about the repetitive content we're going to adopt and not adopt. But there's ways around that as well. So basically, you have the basic mimicking and mirroring effect, but the weaker I make you, the less you question it. So you're going to copy it as a kid, as an infant. As you get older, you're more prone to question it if it's not really working out in your favor. But the mind control experts that govern us from high atop the corrupt ruling pyramid, they know there's factors they can, intertwine into their mind control. They can get around us contemplating if we want to follow or not. And their primary weapon is weak. The weaker you are, the less you'll think about resisting, because the resistance sort of questioning, like if you're going to question following any of the repetitive content, there's a point where the subconscious knows if you resist this group, you're probably going to come into a conflict.
Yeah.
Now, if you're not strong enough, and this is where the weakness comes in, this is all decided in boardrooms and psychology experiments. If your subconscious knows like you're in a wheelchair or you don't know how to fight or you're kind of overweight or you're sick or you're stuffed up or it's your time of the month or anything they know every single modality by which to weaken you. The most powerful are completely energetic, like guilt and shame. But they can layer on, say, 30 modalities of weakening you. You don't recognize them. So that means you're going to think less about resisting, even if you're in the adult stage of life. So this is what mind control is all about, is group dynamics, which is sort of the basic safety adaptation mechanism in the body. And then as we get older, we start to find our own path outside the group dynamics or outside the group pressure. But this group knows, I'm just going to weaken you. And I want people to know wholeheartedly, this is why your Teflon pan is toxic.
Yeah.
This is why microwave food was microwaved and given to farm animals, and the blood of the farm animals were drawn and analyzed, and all the markers of those animals fed microwave food, they all came back like the animal was massively poisoned. This is why there's aluminum in your underarm deodorant. And even I was listening to a podcast on Alex Zek's podcast, The Way Forward, about a lady who was warning about breast implant disease. And it was a great podcast if anybody's wants to come up to date in that area. But she had the great question. She understood there's arsenic inside the breast implant. And her question was, why is arsenic at all inside this implant? Because it's obviously not a functional chemical, it's a
Yeah.
toxin. It's one of the most toxic things. But what I want people to understand is they make everything maximally toxic because what you're living in is a mind control grid. Everything they're doing is about mind control and poison. So I tell people if you want to understand where you live, it's about this main group controls the repetitive content because that is proven to direct, like a Hollywood director, directs your behavior outside your conscious awareness. But if I poison you, I increase the compliant quotient, how many people comply, even if they're in the adult years. So this group, everything you touch today, this is why they're spraying the poisons out of the
Yeah.
sky. This, and don't forget that your immune system can sort of handle the poison sprayed out of the sky, can sort of handle the poison sprayed on your food. All these personal care products, and women are targeted more than
Oh,
men
way more. Yeah.
for all this
Mm.
stuff. Like I'll only use a couple things on my face or my hair. They're all organic. But when I see females get ready, they don't really seem to have the attention to reduce the chemicals. But what I'm trying to say is it's a bigger picture, open the aperture wide, and also know that all the toxins that I just talked about through the skin, through the mouth, you have defenses to those.
Mm.
This group also knows, yeah, poison makes you weak. Weak animals comply more, but the maximum level of poisoning is the poison pushed under the skin.
Mm.
And this is why that particular modality has been a mind control backbone of the system for so long. And if you go back even to Edward Jenner, who was sort of the founder of the what I call the arm darts, or there was other modalities of pushing stuff under the skin with Edward Jenner. He would just scrape things into the skin, not necessarily pushing them through the deltoid muscle. But basically, what people have to understand is that they're not going to let that one go because without that, they can't weaken you enough to place you under the percentages of mind control to stay in power. So if you're wondering why, even you have, RFK Jr. in and Jay Bhattacharya, if that's correct,
Mm.
and nothing's happening,
Mm.
it's because it's a mind control application. It is not a health application. It's never been a health application. It's always been a mind control application. Edward Jenner's involvement in the arm dartology of that particular science, that's only maybe 250 years ago. And the fine art of mind control is thousands of years old, mastered by the Babylonians, the Egyptians, the Sumerians. And again, it's very simple. So don't think that they're super advanced. They were super advanced in some areas, but you don't have to be super advanced to control the repetitive content at, say, a harvest festival or a square, a play in the square or something thousands of years ago. And then you would serve the beer, which the Egyptians also invented, and the fermentation process, because again, poisoning it's very connected directly to how well the mind control campaign bites into the psyche of the mind control victim.
Everything you said there, I completely agree with. And I think this is where it's so hard for most people, there's to realize that this literally infiltrates into every area of their life. And the medical system, I mean, I'm a biologist and I've been studying all this stuff for years, and it's so obvious once you see it. Once you start looking into the whole do viruses exist and what's led on from there, once you do see these things, it's very hard to unsee them, and you can then go down different doors. But for people to realize something as fundamental as do virus exists, it's so hard for people to open their mind that that could be a lie. Um, where do you sit in terms of people starting to question? Because everyone watching this will have some areas where, yes, I can see that, but I would imagine everyone watching this will have some areas where they're not prepared to go or look.
Well, this group is very good at controlling what information you get. And it's and so no harm, no foul. If anybody believes in viruses out there, that's okay. And basically, the more repetitive the content in one particular area, and if you don't have any counter narrative, that sort of makes it like super glue.
Yeah.
So again, no harm, no foul. If you're out there and you're like, even someone listening to this saying, "What do you mean viruses don't exist?" You'd really have to, you could email me, but basically, I know it's going to be hard to believe because you haven't had any counter narrative. And if you don't, this is why in 2020, like right now, we can have this conversation, and I think these things go on YouTube. But if you were to dare talk about this in 2020, you'd be
Oh, yeah.
banned. You would be banned immediately. And the reason for that is in the art of mind control, you have to have a period where there's no counter narrative. And I don't know the period, but obviously it's not that long.
Mm,
And this is why they didn't want us going to the gym. They didn't want us going to work because, at the gym, someone's going to say, hey, this doesn't make any sense, right?
mm,
So all the pathways to exposing yourself to counter narratives were reduced. And this is why the masks were in play as well and 6 feet apart. So you couldn't even really have a conversation. And even at the beginning of 2020, even someone like Deborah Birx,
mm.
who's actually I think she's has a military title, and that's important if you know the full extent of the story. She started to shut down churches in regards to singing because they wanted to give the impression that if you talk, the virus goes X amount of feet out of your mouth, or if you sing, it goes even further. So again, you can see that there's all the pressure. Now, all that's mind control. It's all mind control because they're trying to give you the impression that even if you're at the grocery store, which we were privileged to go to, you probably shouldn't speak because the virus could come outside your mouth. You want to breathe very low, keep 6 feet apart, following the arrows. Now, if you follow the arrows at the grocery store too, if you stop, someone's supposed to stop, behind you and give you your 6 feet. So again, it's all about making sure there's no counter narrative.
Mm.
And so the censorship is about it, the 6 foot distance is about it, the masking is about it, the business closures are about it. And again, don't be surprised that every single thing they do is following basic modalities of brainwashing and mind control. Because again, it's all about counter narrative. So we understand as mind control researchers that you haven't had a lot of counter narratives in the virus category.
Mm.
Completely understand. Now, I've already talked about repetitive content as sort of cementing and fortifying your own belief system outside your conscious awareness. You already know that, right? And there's so many good examples of that. I don't know if have I given examples to people before? I probably have about repetitive content. Like even in the Top Gun movies, they're like
Yeah.
30 30
Yeah,
years apart.
I think it's really important, to say it again because it's so subliminal that it goes in and people just don't pick up on it.
Well, basically, the way mind control can be summed up is monkey see, monkey do, or what we'll see is what will be. And I'll give you some examples so that you understand that repetitive content is being counted, invisibly. And then you'll have all these incidences where people go out and they're following the repetitive content. They don't even know why. So again, Top Gun, there's two installments of that movie series, both with Tom Cruise, and they're 30 years apart. But each time the movie comes out, enrollment in the Top Gun fighter school goes up 500%, just sort of in the 6 months after the movie's released. And so you can see people would think they're getting hijacked.
Yeah.
Their idea of the future just got impregnated into them. Their mind is not their own. Anybody who they're responding to the environment, but again, we're designed to respond to the environment. So in the movie, say Fast and the Furious, in the first one, there weren't a lot of paid sponsors of the gear that was on the cars. But if you happen to have a one of your car parts sort of shown in the movie on a repetitive basis, and again, there was no contracts at that time. They weren't that savvy in the first run of Fast and the Furious. But if they even just happened to show one imprint of a particular car brand of a spoiler or, anything, a carburetor, the sales went up over 1,000% for every single car part manufacturer that was shown in the movie.
Wow.
So again, the repetitive content, we see it, we're sitting down in the movie, and the way our brains are, designed, when we see it on the screen and we see all the emotion around it, that's the thing, is emotion is safety. Emotion is like it's high emotion. People are cheering on the cars. There's pretty women going to the winners of the drag racing cars and Fast and the Furious. The subconscious knows that being paired up is safe.
Mm.
Reproducing is safe. Getting cheered on is safe. Getting high-fived like you're the best part, you're the star of the movie, it's all safe. So the subconscious, which is a safety-based mechanism, says if I do X, Y, and Z, I can be just like them. I can be safe. I can reproduce. I can get people around me smiling and cheering me on. I can have a good safety network, a good group around me. This is what's going on in the average person's mind as they're inside the theater and they don't even know it's happening. And even in the run, there's a 9-year run of the show, the Cosby Show. We've talked about, yeah, we know Bill Cosby is a bit of a nasty man, according to what we've heard about him. And he used to have the Cosby Show, which is a positive portrayal of the Black American family. We had the family was together.
Mm.
There was Mr. Huxtable, which is Bill Cosby, a Black American medical doctor. His wife, Claire Huxtable, played by Felicia Rashad. She was a Black American lawyer. And during this 7 or 8 year run of the show, Black enrollment, post-secondary enrollment in college and university went up 19%.
Wow.
And again, it's this. So again, it's not really that we're designed in a flawed way. It's sort of like the heart of the magician or the heart of the mind controller is going to determine if our society goes in the shitter or our society takes a leg up and has a golden age. And unfortunately, I'm not too sure if you're aware, if you have eyes to see
Yeah.
and a single brain cell left to rub together, you can see that the social engineers are not manufacturing the repetitive content in our favor. Everything is war, it is killing, it is stabbing, it is shooting, it is aggression, it is red versus blue, up versus down, black versus white, and it's all mind control. Even when Trump, like the thing is, it's all mind control. So today people are talking about the lack of the Epstein files, when only 4 weeks ago there were Epstein files.
Yeah.
Ghislaine Maxwell is in jail for committing crimes in relation, in regards to what was in the Epstein files. She's 20 years behind bars. So obviously the Epstein files exist. Now, the reason they're telling you they don't exist is because in psychological research, opposing sort of viewpoints cancel each other out in the mind and cause a flat line,
Yeah.
and which means you're so confused you can't think. And then your subconscious says, okay, well, that happens sometimes. Jason's confused. And when you're confused, the programs, the repetitive content skirts to the front of the line and takes over your behavior. So if you want to know more about how confusion basically disables the mind like a stun gun or a neuralizer, which was some of the memes that were going around where Pam Bondi or some of the other characters involved in the Epstein debacle, they were holding a neuralizer. Now, a neuralizer is from the Men in Black movies, stainless steel cylinder that you hold in your hand, and Will Smith would press the top of it, a big bright light would come out of it, and people would forget what was going on only days or hours before. And so this is what's going on. And again, the reason we started talking about this was you don't have any counter narrative. Now, I'm going to add something else. If you go back to the movies released,
Mm.
and I'll give you some examples like World War Z with Brad Pitt, what was it about? I Am Legend with Will Smith, what was it about? Outbreak with Dustin Hoffman and Cuba Gooding Jr., what was it about? 28 Days with what's his name? Cillian Murphy, what was it about? And even Contagion with Matt Damon and Gwyneth Paltrow, what was it about? Well, what do you think these things were for? They're the same movie over and over and over again, so repetitive. And they're there to put the repetitive content in your brain about what? Well, about what they knew they were going to do 30
Yeah.
years down the road. So where do you think you're getting your idea about viruses? Well, you're getting them. Everybody who's watched these movies has their PhD in virology from Hollywood University. And that's where they get their ideas from, is that something floats, you can't see it. It's comes out of the person's body. It can make some people sick. It can make other people not sick. They can be asymptomatic carriers. Even in the movie Contagion with, it was Lawrence Fishburne, Gwyneth Paltrow, Matt Damon, we see that the viral infection in the movie, which came out in 2011, so 9 years before 2020, the viral infection was out of China.
Yeah.
The spread rate of the virus was very similar to what Neil Ferguson tabulated out of Imperial College in the
Good old
UK.
Neil. Yeah.
Good old Neil,
Yeah.
doing
Never
his
been right, but still used for everything. Yeah.
yeah, because they're all actors.
Mm.
Because this is why acting and movies and TV shows are a huge part of our society and culture, because everybody is an actor in one way or another. And when they're told to hit their mark, they hit their mark. So Neil Ferguson is an actor. Our school system grooms us to stop thinking and to be actors and to
Yeah.
wait for our command from the producer and the director. And even with my business in Canada, I got the call that I had to shut down because I was non-essential. I had health facilities. And they said, we're phoning you because we know you're the guy that's not going to shut down. And I said, I'm not going to shut down. And they said, well, I'm going to send the police. And the police were calling me. We're going to have to send someone there down because, the COVID virus and everything's got to shut down. And I said, well, what about the store below me? They're open. But what about the virus in there? And they said, well, and so they hit their marks. They said their lines and they came and they shut me down. So what I'm trying to say is that most everybody has got their PhD in virology from Hollywood University and have never investigated beyond the repetitive content. And if you do, if you ever, and if you want some citations, just say, teach me about virology, if that's what you want to do. Just say, write me an email at info@jchristoff.com. Give me some choice citations on the virology fraud, and I'll send them to you. But because you've never had the counter narrative. Now, if you look into it, it doesn't even qualify. It doesn't follow the most basic scientific protocol, the basic scientific research principles. It doesn't follow it at all. It doesn't have control trials. It doesn't have control participants. And if you bring control situations into the process of declaring that a virus is present, it completely fails. And no one knows about that because, again, they're controlling the narrative. And they've even tried to take sick people. It was during the Spanish flu, so they had 50 people that were extremely sick. Now, here's the thing about the Spanish flu. It was connected to a parathyroid vaccine that made everybody sick. So here's the weird thing about the experiment. They did have 50 sick people. How they got sick, we don't know. I assume they were vaccinated, and that's what made them sick. But regardless, you have 50 super sick people. They bring them to a prison, not even a healthy population. So the prison population are the healthy folks in this experiment. Okay, so this experiment is tipped in our favor, in the truth teller's favor, but only if the sickness could never be transferred from sick person to obviously not really healthy people, prisoners in the prison environment. And they tried everything. They tried swabs of saliva from sick people to healthy people. They tried snot, and they would wipe the snot into a syringe and inject it into the person. They did the breathing, the saliva, they did whatever sort of gross stuff you could ever think of, it was done. Not one person got sick. And there's been similar experiments, but do you hear about them? You don't hear about them whatsoever. And even in the case of the person or the experiment that supposedly isolated the polio virus, they said they had polio virus. They tried to inject it into a monkey, no polio. They tried to put it up the nose, no polio. They tried to swab it in the mouse, no polio. But then they sawed the skull of the monkey open, took a syringe and injected it into the brain of the monkey. The monkey became pseudo-paralyzed, bingo, bango, bongo, proof positive for polio. Could it have been that you opened the monkey's skull, exposing the brain to the open air and stab the brain with a needle full of dirt? Could that have been it? Oh, no. It has to be a virus. And every story about virology is that asinine, but you don't hear about them because mind control is about making sure the repetitive content coming your way is controlled by the person in charge of the psyop. And again, this is the most important psyop for them because the virology lie underpins the vaccinology lie.
Yeah.
And they're both mind control operations because the more poisoned you are, the more you comply with
Yeah,
the
I mean, just
repetitive content of the day.
exactly. I mean, imagine if more and more people started understanding this information, it's going to be so much harder for them to roll out the next pandemic. What other areas do you see at the moment where a lot of people are still very much not questioning and under mind control, big control areas of us in terms of how they're keeping everyone compliant or in a fear state?
Well, it doesn't matter what social media sort of personality you see. They argue about, say money going to Israel or the Ukraine. And so they're like, is it too much? Is it too little? Should they be doing that? How was it sent? Who's tracking it? And that's what they want. This is the
Yeah.
mind control campaign, is that you call the blow by blow commentary of the psyop. The psyop is there should be no one, or this is the antidote to the psyop. There should be no one stealing your money and giving it to anybody else. But no one says that. It doesn't matter if it's Tucker Carlson or like name them, right? Alex Jones, who's under his own mind control these days. Tucker Carlson, I believe he has CIA ties through his immediate family, his father, I believe. No one, and he says a lot of good things, but what he never says is that the government is illegitimate on its face because no group of people can derive rights that you don't have as an individual. I do not have the right to take your money and send it to my brother. Now, no matter how, if I had five friends, no matter how big the group is, no matter how many vote in favor of stealing Catherine's money, it's still illegal. And that's another psyop, is that the government is above the law.
Yeah.
And if anybody is above the law, well, then you don't have a free society, which we don't. But everybody will go to the next psyop on July 4th, the home of the brave or land of the brave, home of the free, whatever the saying is. But that's all they have to give people. Because if you tell them they're free on a repetitive basis, the subconscious will assume that it's free, even if it's in a prison. So again, no one is talking that the government in its position of authority over you it's illegitimate on its very face, because no matter how many people vote to steal your money and poison you, it doesn't make it lawful or legal for them to do so. And so the money keeps getting stolen because that is the goal of the ruling group. So these ruling groups weren't in government structures before. They were just, say, a king and a queen of England.
Yeah.
And everybody was aware that it's those two that are screwing you over.
Mm.
Now, this group knows energy too, and if you don't know cymatics or energy or how energy works, that's a lot of pressure. And the King and Queen of England had 60 or 70 Commonwealth countries. And when things went bad, they knew who was screwing them over. Two
Mm.
people, or even one. One would be the monarch, someone else would be behind waiting to be the monarch. That's a lot of pressure, and that's a lot of rebellion potential. So they got together and said, and if anybody wants to see this in a brilliant film, how this con job works, mind control application, go the Jones Plantation.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah.
It'll be the best $10 you ever spend. You can watch it on your computer, bring the whole family together, watch the Jones Plantation. So what they would say is, we got to give what the human slave lacks is a sense of control.
Mm.
We need to keep our position of authority over them. but we got to give them back the sense of control so that the rebellion potential goes down and they keep producing milk as human cattle down on our human farming operation. So that sense of control was a vote between two political actors, both controlled by the royal family. And basically, inside the Jones plantation, it was the plantation owner, Mr. Jones, that was whipping and beating and coercing and threatening his slaves. And he was taken right out of the picture. You're not even going to vote for Mr. Jones. He's going to give authority to us, and you're going to be free men. You're going to decide what happens to you down here on Jones Plantation. So you can basically vote for Mr. Smith, or you can vote for another person. They're going to represent you, but they don't represent you. Mr. Jones is still in control of the plantation. It's a complete and utter fraud, and it's there to give the illusion of control. And you see it today where everybody's fighting about which political actor is stealing their money or poisoning them. That's the Jones plantation. You have it in the UK. And if you do it long enough, and not only say the Epstein files, which is a mind control operation of confusion, it's also there as a form of abuse. So if you go to a government psychiatrist today, like in a government facility, and tell them you're being abused, by law, they got to go down a characteristic list to see if you're being abused. Well, if you haven't noticed, you might want to get one of those characteristic lists that are easy to find, and I'll send you one from Canada. I'll send you one from Canada, and then compare it to what the government does to you. So the thing about I just talked about is that mind control compliance goes up, which means you're going to comply more if you're weakened, if you're an abuse victim. And abuse victims have these states. Abuse victims have these states of learned helplessness where they can't even envision a better future for themselves. Can't even do it.
And that you can see everywhere, can't you? Because I mean, if people are asking for solutions, but it's so big a problem for them, they're like, what on earth can we do? So when people are at that stage, what's your advice for them?
Well, the first thing I'll do is I'll finish about this this learned helplessness. Again, that's what Trump's scripted his scripted lines are about. He's calling people, you're weak. I don't even need your endorsement anymore. I'm not here to please you. If you were part of the MAGA and you think this is the way I should go, I don't even want you on the team anymore. And that's there to beat them down mentally, to make them feel shame, to make them feel guilt, to make them like second guess themselves. And then the confusion, the contradiction, where only 6 months ago he was talking about this was going to be the big release, and he did release, the influencers came out of the White House on the front lawn with the Epstein files in white binders. So it's all there. It's all a psychological operation. Trump is not saying these lines off the top of his head. He's there to beat you down. So, Biden beat you down, Carter beat you down, Reagan beat you down, Obama, Clinton. It's there because it's the Jones plantation. You're not in control. Your vote is there to give you the impression that you have some sort of say, but you'll see it's a two-party relay race to steal your money and give it to their friends. And their friends love getting the money. So a couple of their friends would say, hey, you know what? We got to invent some tech so that when these people wake up, they can't come get us because this is getting way too obvious that the Jones plantation is the Jones plantation. So they're inventing tech with your stolen money so that when you figure out you're on the Jones plantation, that they're just going to lock you down or lock your bank account down. You're
Yeah.
not going to be able to get anywhere, right? And there's so much going on with the router in your house. They can see what you're doing in your home through your router. They can hear what you're doing through your router, right? So this is what the average person has to understand, is that please be aware, and I'll give the solutions now. Your ability to be conned is based on what you expose yourself to repetitively and how much poison you bring in your mouth or under your skin. So the less you're poisoned, the stronger you are. Stronger animals don't comply as well with the repetitive content. So it's a two-pronged approach if you want the solution. But here's the thing. The repetitive content of any environment reflects what the bigger group is saying, thinking, or doing, and your body feels safe for doing that. The reason you smoke, the reason you drink, the reason you watch Netflix and actors kill, shoot, and murder each other, and the reason you worry all the time is because, they've impregnated all that into you. And because it's repetitive, your subconscious thinks that's the safest card to play.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to tell you, you got to get healthy to get stronger, but your subconscious is like an 800-pound gorilla that drags you in the direction of the repetitive content, whether you want to go or not. I'll give you an example. Go watch Bad Boys with Will Smith and I forget the other actor's name. Sorry about that. You're not as popular as Will.
Yeah.
So basically, watch any of the installations of Bad Boys, and you'll see literally over 100 imprints of alcohol.
Yeah.
The only reason Bad Boys is being made is for the alcohol. It's not there to make you happy or entertain you. It's there to put the alcohol repetition in so that if I tell you to get healthy, you can't stop. You can't quit. Because the minute you go to quit, the subconscious puts that invisible pressure into your neurology saying, whoa, 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 this is the bigger group. This is where it's safer. You're going to be in danger of getting attacked if you quit alcohol. So what you have to do is you have to convince that 800-pound gorilla that that is no longer the bigger group, and it's all repetition based. So you only have one choice. You got to control the repetitive content of your environment so that you get repetitive signals to control your 800-pound gorilla, so that you trick it to say, hey, the bigger group is the one that doesn't drink. The bigger group is the one that doesn't vape. The bigger group is the one that saves its money. The bigger group is the one that invests its money. The bigger group is the one that starts the business as opposed to getting a job. Every show's about getting a job, hating your job. Fun times on the job. They're drowning you in negative repetitive content where you're always going to be gum underneath the shoe of the ruling group. But your whole society is this, everything, your music. And if anybody wants to know how devious your music is for this, you got a UK guy, Mark Devlin. Follow Mark Devlin. He's a brilliant researcher and presenter, and you'll see, like I said, it's not an exaggeration just because it's my major area of study. The entire society is based on mind control and poisoning, mind control and poisoning, mind control and poisoning, because that's how morons, mental midgets, and beta males take full control of the entire society. That's the only way they can do it, is they have to poison you so that you're weaker than them, and they have to give you negative repetitive content so you chase your tail in life, financially, spiritually, health-wise. Most people today go to the doctor and insist the doctor poisoned them, then wonder why they're sick. The doctor's programmed in the same way to hand out poison and not even to notice that whether he's a man or a woman, the doctor can't make anybody healthy. The doctors go through the most intense brainwashing campaigns of any professional. That's why they can't see any of this. They can't see that they're out of shape. They can't see that their patients are sick. They refuse to acknowledge arm dart injuries.
Yeah.
So basically, that's how your society works, whether you want to admit it or not. And again, viruses are part and parcel of that. And I'm telling you, if you don't, if you want to be free, you'll have to dismantle the false viral disease paradigm in your head, because they have every agenda. Most of their agendas are tied to that. Absolutely.
Completely. And it is frightening. You know, I work in the holistic health field, and it's so hard. Even people that are coming to you for help and have obviously realized at some level of their consciousness that what they're doing isn't working, otherwise they wouldn't be coming for help in the first place. But it's everywhere. I mean, I work predominantly with animals, and the food, the microchipping, the vaccinations, the chemical treatments, the way we disconnect them from nature, it's so huge, it's overwhelming. And I think that's where, as you were saying, if people aren't strong enough, fit enough, and healthy enough themselves, they just haven't got the energy to even start to tackle it. It's so much easier just to go back and bury your head in the sand. So getting physically fit and healthy and getting those poisons out, and most importantly, try to stop them going in the first place. Number one, what would be your second course of action for people?
Basically, you can start controlling your repetitive content, which
Yeah,
means you might have to listen to positive speakers, healthy speakers, entrepreneurs. So instead of knowing, John Wick 1 through 4, Paul Chek, his basically crash course that's free on YouTube. It's a 6 part series. Then those 6 parts instead of John Wick 1 through 4, Equalizer 1 through 3, or Nightmare on Elm Street 1 through
yeah,
5. Like, you just have to understand you're going to be what you're going to see. Monkey see, monkey do. And most of what people see today is utter garbage, but only because the social engineers designed it to be that way. And it's just really important to understand you're a magical being, and everything the system is doing as a bigger picture is to turn you away from God.
yeah,
That's the bigger picture, coming into focus. Like, you got a human body, it's designed by God, and then if you eat Doritos, God's body gives you diarrhea and a rash. Now, when you go
so
to
well
the
put. Yeah,
right, so that's God with you, as close as you're going to get, because his design is flawless, to let you know that Doritos does not work in parallel with his design. But if you go to the doctor and they give you something like Malox, then you don't have diarrhea. And then you take a Tylenol, you don't have the headache, and you take another anti-inflammatory, and your rash goes away. You just turned away from God,
mm.
right? And no one sees it like that. I was taught this by a great teacher from the Root Cause Institute called Paul Lindertz. But if you look at everything in our society, the basis of it is there's an evil force turning you away from God. Like when you have a kid, you're supposed to protect that kid. In our society, we're taught to give our children away, which is
Exactly.
so God gives us a gift, we give it away, so we're turning against God. We give it to institutions. Now, when the kid goes to school, see, God sends people here on different missions, and they call it the soul. Now, soul means like soleil in French, which means light or the sun. So we're always in connection with the sun, getting the downloads about our mission. Now, they put us away from the sun, and they say that's your sort of life direction that you'll pick up on if you just go in the natural way. We're going to override that with the school curriculum. You're going to go be a nurse that injects poison into people. You just turned away from God again. You're turning your children away from God's design. People don't even understand that everything I'm saying is being run by an ancient evil force that's being talked about for thousands of years on this planet. It works in invisible ways. It has its own Wi-Fi signal. It won't
Yep.
show up in person. It has a frequency of vibration that's equal to the poison. So when you're poisoned, you might not know that you're a little bit of a router. Your vibration goes super low. You pick up the devil's Wi-Fi, you pick up his signals. And if you get healthy, you're going to find your router will pick up a higher frequency signal, which is God's Wi-Fi. And then you'll get his messages too. Yeah, you might want to spread the word a bit, start a podcast, do some better things. And then if you're always picking up the devil's Wi-Fi because you were abused as a child, this is the easiest way to almost permanize the vibration of the devil's Wi-Fi. This is why if you go to Kathy O'Brien's work, all the abuse is children. The ruling families do this to their own children on purpose. You get a Bill Gates, you get a Jeffrey Epstein, you get Justin Trudeau. These people are permanently hooked up to the devil's Wi-Fi, but you can't see it because they've made you turn away from God. Because the phrase that you're supposed to use is by their fruits you shall know them. You can't see the signal, but you can see their mouth, you can hear them, you can see what they're doing. We're so turned away from what God means, which is walking the truthful, moral, and ethical path. We're so far away ourselves, we can't tell when the devil's right in front of us. And if you're healthy, you will get the different vibration from a different router, from a different signal source, and you will be told how to navigate this successfully. But you're not going to navigate it unless you're healthy. So again, Paul Chek's book, CHEK, Paul Chek's book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, is the only book you and your family will ever need to get healthy. And what's funny, this group are energy magicians. They know energy. You'll find it weird that your power comes back. Where do you think it came from? It came from you just got back what you gave away. You took back what was always yours. And that's why when you basically say you revere a rock star and you'll see the fans, okay, which is like fanning the flames. That's why they're called fans. All the energy is up with the rock star. And they're crazy. Why are they crazy? What are they doing? They're looking to get their energy back, but they don't know how. Right? They outsource their energy and they see this God, so much energy, and they go crazy because really what they're trying to do is, can you give me some of my energy back? So when you get healthy, the bizarre thing is if you go study physics, energy is neither created nor destroyed. You don't need to go find Starmer. You can steal the energy of the system just by getting healthy in your own home. They know this. It is fact. They do not want you to know that as your energy comes back to you, as you take control over the day-to-day decisions in your own life, you steal the energy from them. And it's your own energy that you're stealing back.
I love it. Everyone can do this. Everyone can start with that. This is the beauty of what you're suggesting, is it's in every single person listening to this can start and take some steps right here, right now to do that. And it's so true. It's so much, everything seems so complicated, but you've got such a fantastic way, Jason, of explaining it in such common sense ways that make it really achievable for people. So, final takeaways from Message to the People, and how can people connect with you? Because I know there's been issues with your email list. I get your emails, they're fantastic. Everyone needs to be on your email list. So what's the best way for them to contact you, and any final words of wisdom for people?
I think the best thing is it's about progress. It's not about perfection. So when you try to get healthier, you will find some days are good, like the stock market. And then some days you'll have to rest at what I call base camp, where you reevaluate and you recharge because climbing out of the addictive programming takes some energy. And you'll recalibrate it and re-strategize at the base camp. Some days you will fall back into your addictions as hard as you've ever, were engaged with them. And that's okay. That's going to happen. And your success is based, like we have this concept of the self-sabotage tool shed. And the tool shed is full of self-sabotage modalities, different for every people. Sometimes there's bags of cocaine, cigarettes, alcohol, vape sticks. Sometimes you'll go back in, but you used to live in there. And so you're not in as much. That's a victory. And your victory will only be gauged by how long the duration, longer and longer durations outside the self-sabotage tool shed is how you prove positive that you're winning. So it's not like you're going to quit your wine or your coffee. This is the 1-2 punch in the mind control realm. Caffeine has a very particular effect on your mind. So it's not like you're going to quit, but you can lessen it over time. Your strength starts to come back. You steal it back from the system itself. And then you feel at base camp, you know what? I'm ready to go 7 days without wine. And you just start going up the mountain and you got the power now. And then once you get there, you might be like, I'm going to have a glass of wine. But that could have been the longest you ever went without having a sip of wine. That's a victory. That's a win. So again, it's about progress. It's not about perfection. You start where you are, use what you have, do what you can, but start looking at your repetitive content of your movies, your TV shows, listen to your music, start understanding. You listening to, and when I was a kid, there's this guy called Beck. I think he's from the UK, and he used to sing a song, "I am a loser, baby.
That's
So
it. Yep.
why don't you kill me?" And if you're a mind control researcher at all, you'll know this is not good shit to listen to because it's going to have a negative effect. Whether they can calibrate it or not, it's going to have a negative effect. It can cause suicide
Yeah.
in some people that are prone and already weak, so weak they can't push back on the suggestion. The mental resilience can be so low that you take these things in as command, and there's nothing more repetitive than the average chorus line.
Yeah.
So start investigating, know that there's a way out, know that you can't change what's going on out there. Don't look for a hero. If you want to be a hero, you want to get congruent with the ruling or have a good ruler, you rule yourself. You rule your own country, the 2 foot by 2 foot country called you. You rule that as the most ethical and moral and just ruler in recorded history, and only then go out. And you don't even have to go out. Just go out and people will copy what you do because you're having such good results in life. You don't have to go out and protest or campaign. Just live an amazing, empowered life. And what they don't tell you is that your vibration, your frequency, is proven to change other people's frequency. I'll give
Yeah.
you an example. The McClintock effect. There was a researcher called McClintock. I forget her first name, but she discovered that the women in sorority houses all had their periods started to sync up pretty concretely, which means there's a vibration felt between people and that our bodies are so excited to make friends with each other. We'll mimic their frequency to say, hey, you know what? I'm just like you. Can we be friends yet? So if you're blasting off a high frequency like I blast off, not all the time because sometimes I take base camp rest too.
Yeah.
But I blast off a higher frequency. I am 55 years old. No, I don't dye my hair.
Mm.
So I blast off a pretty healthy frequency. Everybody where I live is getting a good scent of that. And it's important if you want to help other people, that's the best you can do. Is you're giving off a scent of success or depression every single day that you're alive.
Yeah.
And that's why I take it as my personal responsibility. Get up, listen to something positive, have a positive affirmation in the morning, have some water, work out, eat healthy, get sunshine, because I'm helping everybody in my area. Now, if they did the same thing, we'd start just morphing congruently together into stronger and stronger fields all around the planet. And this is also proven. So it's important to know you want to participate, you want to do your part, just take care of your own garden and get as strong as you can. Get the poisons out of your life, control the positive repetitive content, let the 800-pound gorilla drag you in the direction of something more, something better, and you're going to help everybody in your community. You lead by example. You don't have to say anything.
I love it. I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much, Jason. Now, you offer various ways for people to connect with you. Your newsletter list is brilliant, and your email address for people to connect onto that will be below. How else can people work with you if they want to?
Well, I have basically only once a year now. I work directly with the public. Like I have an overcoming self-sabotage coaching certification. And my goal there is simple. I want you to overcome self-sabotage yourself, which is all about mind control. But I want you to be able to get a job and support yourself. Starts as a side hustle. We teach how to make websites, a lot of entrepreneurship mentoring. I've been in business for 32 years now myself, so I got a lot to share about how to run a successful business. It's a great course. You'll learn everything about how you work internally, how the mind control works, how the brainwashing works, how to brainwash yourself to success, and then go out and get a job, start a side hustle doing the same for other people. Helps the world heal, helps yourself heal, makes things easier in your home. And I have this other program for people who want to learn the same stuff called The Power in You, but they don't want a certification. And that program is pretty hilarious. But I only teach those once a year. So if you want to learn when they come out, you can email me at info@jchristoff.com. We'd like to see you. It's always fun. We've got hundreds of people in the programs, and it's really you put a smile on your face and be part of a group that's empowered.
Absolutely love it. Thank you so much for your time. Brilliant information. Yours are actually the only emails that I really open at the moment because they've always got such a great mix of helpful stuff, information, and connections. So thanks for your time. I hope everyone who's watching this has taken as much away as I have. Simple actions. Let's get going. Let us know in the comments below what you're doing and what's working for you. Thanks, Jason.
Always a pleasure, Catherine. Thank you.
Thanks. Hi everyone, it's Catherine here, and before I dive into today's episode, I want to really quickly share something that's so important to me. I love hosting this podcast because it allows us all to explore those big questions, challenge our programming, and uncover the natural truths that truly empower us. But did you know my real passion's working one-on-one with animals and people, helping you or your animal cut through the noise, find the root cause of imbalances, stress, illnesses, or really just create a personalized plan that actually works for you. So whether you're here for your own healing or you're a dedicated animal guardian, wanting the very best for your dog, cat, horse, any four-legged or scaled or winged companion, I'm here for you both. I work with animals and humans, but I especially love helping the animals thrive. That is my real happy place. So my recharge and reset consultations and online courses are packed with practical tools, printable resources, lifelong access. And the main thing is you'll never feel alone on this journey. And they work. Just head over to my website and check out the testimonials. So if you're really ready to take action and not just listen, head over to CatherineEdwards.life. That's Catherine with the C and .life at the end. And explore my courses and consults, or if you want to, book a free 15-minute chat to see if I can help. because it's really important we stop outsourcing our health, really look after our animal companions better than before, and start leading by example. Now back to the podcast. Thank you. Time to listen. And if you feel inspired, please do share with your friends and family. This helps us spread the word and also helps me encourage some exciting new guests to take part in this podcast. And above all, stay curious and stay free.